Hello everyone, bonjour à tout le monde. Ce message est adressé à nos compatriotes anglophones, surtout ceux qui sont dans les régions de Nord-ouest et sud-ouest. La situation reste dangereuse dans les deux régions et il faut faire quelque chose. Il faut comprendre que les ennemis de nos compatriotes dans les deux régions sont les Ambazoniens. Ce sont aussi les gens du gouvernement de Paul Biya. Mais il faut toujours convaincre ces compatriotes qui sont dans les deux régions d'abandonner l'Ambazonie et de joindre avec les autres Camerounais pour chasser le gouvernement de Paul Biya. Paul Biya doit partir parce que la situation dans les régions de Nord-ouest et sud-ouest et la situation politique et économique dans notre pays ne peut pas être gérée par ce monsieur. Donc, la présentation continue en anglais. So this message is addressed to all Anglophones, those living in East Cameroon and those who are living in Northwest and Southwest in the midst of this misery. First, I want to thank many of you who have reached out to us to tell us that you used to consider us to be enemies of the people of Northwest and Southwest. You thought we were working for the government of Biya and we did not care about the welfare of people in Northwest and Southwest. Some of you have now recognized that we are the only objective voice, and not only objective voice, but the people who really care about the value of human lives. Human lives which are wasted now in the war that has been going on for a long time. Some of you, CPD militants in Northwest and Southwest, Anglophones, even in other parts of the country, you are now beginning to recognize why we've made the judgment that one way to solve this crisis was to start with the departure of Mr. Paul Biya. Some of you have recognized, some of you have not yet. Some of you who are very selfish and you care only about yourself, you do not recognize that the solution to the problems of the country and to the problems that are going on in Northwest and Southwest. The solution starts with the departure of this evil and incompetent president called Paul Biya. That is the first point. I want to thank the people who have been honest and have reached out to us and said, we have looked at Ambazonia, we've looked at the way we are suffering now. We now recognize that some of the things you were saying were true, they were correct. So thank you for recognizing that. And then we want to go ahead and to say that we here, we support the rule of law. We support a united Cameroon. But we support a Cameroon that is prosperous, a Cameroon that makes life affordable for every Cameroonian, irrespective of where you come from. We consider tribalism to be the worst possible thing that can happen to us here now. So that was our position, to say that we support the unity of Cameroon. We recognize that we are one country, separated at different times by colonial masters, and we found our way back together. Not completely as it should be, but most of us came back together and formed a country. We believe strongly that we can challenge the idea that African nations cannot be united, that they cannot be prosperous, they cannot transcend their tribalism, they cannot form a nation. They kill each other in very dirty tribal wars. We believe that we can challenge that vision and present a country in Africa called Cameroon, where people live in diversity, cultural diversity, religious diversity, and yet they have a country that abides by the rule of law and that is governed by strong institutions, and a country that is prosperous with all the resources that nature has given us. We believe strongly that we can overcome this challenge. That is what keeps us working every day. We know that in Kenya, tribalism is a big problem. We know that in Ghana, tribalism is a big problem. We know in Nigeria, regionalism is a problem. We know in Senegal, in Cote d'Ivoire, all of these places people are suffering because of tribal differences. In South Africa is the same thing. But we take up the challenge and we believe that we as a country in Central Africa, Cameroon, we can demonstrate to Africa that a country can be diverse in cultural aspect, can be diverse in the way they worship God, and yet when they hold on to the rule of law, when they hold on to strong institutions where human beings recognize that the office is always bigger than the officer, that we can use the resources that nature has given us to make our country prosperous. That's how I believe, and we will fight and work for it every day in our lives. We also believe that citizens can criticize the government at all times. They can criticize and challenge the government when the government is not living up to expectation. Let's say when the government is not respecting the Constitution, when the government is changing the Constitution whenever it wants, when an elecum is declaring fake results to be the results of election, we believe that such a country must be capable of producing citizens who challenge the government on these issues. But being able to challenge the government also means that you should be able to help the government to solve very complex problems. We do not apologize for reaching out to the government of Mr. Paul Biya on this crisis in the Nord-ouest and South-West. We believe then and we believe now they do not understand the scale of this crisis and the seriousness of it at all. We try to help them with advice. We try to help them with information. We gave them a solution. We talked about it with you and everybody knew about the solution. We asked for a peace, Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We asked for a special task force on balanced regional development and marginalization claims and all of these things, assimilation to address these issues, and we asked for effective decentralization. Now we believe that the government of Paul Biya does not understand what it means, a decentralized unitary state, and therefore they cannot implement it. We try to help the government of Biya, but we are here to tell you in very strong and convincing terms that this government of Mr. Biya will not, because it cannot resolve the North-West and South-West crisis. Having realized this, therefore, we are committed to fight every day to make sure that this man leaves the presidency. It is not just the North-West and South-West war that was wrongfully prosecuted by the president, even though we had advised them contrary. We had advised them against this idea. It's not just the North-West-South-West war that motivates us to fight with other Cameroonians to bring about the resignation by force of Mr. Paul Biya. We look at the African Cup of Nations, which was given to Cameroon. It was supposed to be organized this year. It was withdrawn last year. And a lot of money, the money that has been used to build the infrastructure, is more than 3 times the cost of this infrastructure, and yet this infrastructure are not ready. Thieves have taken this money and used in different ways. A serious country will make sure that such people are punished. This government is not going to do so. It rewards these people, it gives them greater opportunities. It's not just the African Cup of Nations which has been withdrawn and embezzlement orchestrated in the handling of the infrastructure. It is also the extreme delegation of power. Nobody knows who is running Cameroon now. Somebody, even like Professor Nyamding, is expressing doubt. His CPDM is expressing doubt. It is time the CPDM opened their eyes. Mr. Paul Biya is not the one running the country. Mr. Paul Biya may not know what date it is today. It is now clear to many Cameroonians. Some of these decisions, some of the political decisions, they are taken by Chantal Biya, dancing her music and doing her hair. And just like Marie Antoinette, she doesn't care about who is dying in North-West and South-West. She's not doing it alone. She's doing it with a gang of thieves from her family, from her tribe, from the government, who have banded together to say that this old man is old. He doesn't know what is going on in the country. Let's run the country the way we want. Any citizen, any patriot who recognizes that must therefore join with the fact that there is war in Nord-ouest and South-west to condemn the government and to try to rescue the country from that decay and say enough is enough. Biya must go. Biya and his government is only one side of the problem in Nord-ouest and South-west. We have come to this state because many of you in Nord-ouest and South-west, you play with the idea of independence. Independence is not desirable. It is also not possible. It can only be possible in the sense that you kill 1 million Anglophones. And then the people will say, oh my God, let us just separate these people. That's what Ambazonians understand. The leaders abroad, they want to kill 1 million Anglophones and more so that they may get their pet country they call Ambazonia. The government of Biya does not care. It says, if you want 1 million to be killed, we have the weapons. This is because the war is directed not by Paul Biya. The political issues are directed by Chantal Biya and have a gang of thieves. But the war issue, the security issues, are directed by the Israeli officer who has been employed by Paul Biya. He is an advisor, but at the same time, he's the supplier of weapons. He's the one who commands Biya. He's working money. And the way you work money using weapons is that you have war going on and on for a long time. And therefore, if you're talking about separation, Ambazonians are willing to let 1 million Anglophones die. The government of Paul Biya, which has handed the war to a foreigner who is making money by selling weapons and selling equipment for the security forces, he is willing to run this as long as business is going. Therefore, we must recognize that Ambazonia is in partnership with the government of Biya to inflict misery on our people. We must say no to Ambazonia. Many of you still toy with this idea. There is no way you can support Ambazonia and not support the atrocities that are carried out now by Ambazonia. Life has been made very cheap. Life has been reduced as a result of the actions of Ambazonia. So what we are saying to the people on the ground, we are saying to the Ambazonian supporters, we have made a separation, we have made a distinction between the Ambazonian fighters in Cameroon. Most of you do not like Paul Biya. You recognize that the problems of the country is Paul Biya. Some of you were hoping that Professor Kamto would win the presidency. Some of you were hoping that there will be a solution. Some of you are just calling for something you call dialogue. And that dialogue is what we call a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Anybody whose house has been burned down, anybody who has lost property, anybody whose child was killed, whose relative was killed, that person needs answer from this commission. Who gave the orders? Why did they give the orders? And then the property that has been lost must be replaced. You are not begging. You are asking for compensation for your property that has been carelessly burned down by soldiers taking orders from an Israeli officer. That's what we've been asking for. And we think that most of you who are fighting on the ground, you would be happy with the departure of Mr. Biya, and you would be happy with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission we are asking for. You would be happy with a task force on balanced regional development, fighting marginalization, fighting assimilation. You would be happy with local government, effective local government, not in some kind of government delegate, some kind of governor, and all of these powers imposed on you from Yaoundé. You would be happy with all of these provisions. And so we make a separation between Ambazonian fighters in Cameroon. Yes, among you are thieves. Yes, among you are very violent people. Among you are people who are using drugs. And they have made life so cheap. They butcher people as if they are butchering animals. But we also know the Ambazonian leaders who are abroad. These people are wicked. They are selfish. They are greedy. Some of them are just looking for ways to raise money. Some of them are hoping to come back to Cameroon and become political leaders. They have lost all knowledge of French, and they know that the only way they can survive in Cameroon is to create a country where French is not needed and where they can be respected as the leaders of the revolution. These people are making money. They are selling books. They are traveling from one place to another. Some of these people, they only need the fight to continue in Cameroon because they are going to file for political asylum. They will go and declare that if I go back to Cameroon, Paul Biya would arrest me, and therefore I need protection in that country. They will get a visa. That's what it's about. I know these people. I know what their game is. These people are criminals by the standards set up in the countries where they live. They should have been arrested before. They should have been arrested by now. The only reason they are not arresting them is because those countries are praying for violence to happen in Cameroon so that they can come in and take the resources of our country. The United States is the chief among them. The United States protecting Tapang Ivory, is protecting all of these leaders in the United States, is allowing them to collect money to buy guns, and these guns have been used to kill your relatives. They have been used to kill security forces. Of course, you know that more citizens have been killed than the security forces. And some of them are killed. Some of them are fighting. You say ADF is fighting this other group. This other group is fighting this other group. That's the way it can only be. Such anarchy can only operate along this line. So the people who are out here benefiting from this. And our advice is for you in Cameroon to recognize that for 2 years you have not achieved any visible progress with your fight. You must now give chance to us who support the Union, to us who support the United Cameroon, to us who support Cameroon but recognize that the problem is really this president who has destroyed every institution, who has destroyed the rule of law in our country. You must give us a chance to fight. This year, this is the year of action. We're going to bring about the forced resignation of Mr. Paul Biya. He will leave A2D and there will be fresh elections. For this to happen, it's going to take some time. We cannot continue killing our people in the Nord-ouest and sud-ouest in the hope of an Ambazonia that will never come. In support of thieves abroad, these people are using the fact that you are fighting in Bamenda to ask the American government to give them a visa to stay in America. That's how they benefit from your suffering, from your misery. Only very wicked people can do so. But yes, they are wicked. They don't care about your lives. And therefore, what we are telling you on the ground, we are telling you to stop fighting. We are telling you to give us a chance to fight Mr. Biya. And when we fight Mr. Biya, we also fight the government of America. These people here have to be arrested. I do not apologize for that. They are killing you on the ground, but I'm simply asking for you to be arrested. I'm asking for the leaders of Ambazonia to be arrested. Many of you in the bushes, you don't know whether you will come back home safe tomorrow. But we know that Ayuk Tabe, Tassan, Wilfred, and the rest, we know that they have 3 meals every day. We know that they are not in the rain. We know that they are not in the forest. That's what I have said from the beginning. I don't apologize for asking for people to be arrested. If they have weapons, if they have violence, I don't apologize for that. But my heart breaks for those of you who face your death. You die in circumstances, your bodies are allowed to decay in the forest. Nobody gives you the respect that your body is supposed to be. Your life is worth nothing. Your life is worth nothing to the leaders of Ambazonia. Your life is worth nothing to the government. It's willing to neutralize. It calls neutralize. But that's trying to make it polite that they're killing, they're destroying the potential human life. And therefore we are asking you on the ground to give us permission, to give us a breathing space to prosecute our own campaign, our protest to ask for Mr. Biya to resign. This brings me to the pastors. This brings me to the priests. This brings me to the imams. Many of you, I am from the Presbyterian Church, and I know within the Presbyterian Church, many pastors are Ambazonians. Shame on them. Shame on them. But you have to realize that you have been serving the devil, because the devil you have been serving has made life useless in Nord-ouest and sud-ouest, has destroyed schools, has destroyed the livelihoods of many people. But as it is with God, the time to repent is always right. This is the right time for you to repent of your separatism. I will not apologize to Cardinal Toomey. He's a divisive fellow. Anybody who starts out by telling young people who are about to take up arms, if you tell them that there is no union between you and Francophones, when you know that the problem is this wicked man called Paul Biya, you have not helped our country. You have joined to make life useless. I will not apologize for calling out those leaders, religious leaders, who foolishly and have not come out. That is what the religion of the Christians and the religion of the Muslim is about. When you make a mistake, you have to own up to that mistake. I'm still waiting for Cardinal Toomey to apologize for saying that there is no union between Francophones and Anglophones. That has served as the fuel to make people become more separatist in their thinking. These people protect. These people work together with Ambazonia, hoping for a country where they will be truly independent. I recognize only one Cameroon. I am saying one Cameroon, not in the sense of one and indivisible. I have not used here, and our group has not used one and indivisible Cameroon. That is the rubbish of French people. It's useless rhetoric from the Napoleonic brutal people in France. I say one Cameroon. I use the same name and the same approach like our brother and our father, Mr. Winston Nde Tumoza. His party was called One Cameroon. He was part of UPC. And the idea there was to unify Cameroon, and then we get our true independence from France. We have never been independent. We have never had independence from the French people. We are one people, united. But we need to free our country from the thieves that are put in office by Paul Biya, and free our country from the French people who are telling them to assimilate us, who are telling them to run such a policy that does not recognize the complexity of our history. That's what I stand for. We recognize one Cameroon, and therefore the pastors, the priests, and the imams, your political positions may not be particularly in one way or the other, but your position given to you by the mission that you have from God to take care of souls must be such that you preserve the sanctity of human life. I have seen pastors praying for Ambazonian fighters that maybe they should kill more soldiers. I have seen some pastors, when they realize the difficulty that Ambazonia has placed them in, praying for the security forces to kill the Ambazonians. This departs from the gospel. This departs from the Quran. This departs from the mission that you are given to steer the lives of people in the direction in which they value their own lives, they value the lives of other people. Only that way can you have a foundation for a society that respects the law, and a society where the lives of people are taken seriously. The time to repent is always right. This is the time for you to take your mission seriously. I'm not asking you to become supporters of a united Cameroon. I'm not asking you to become apologists for Ambazonian separation, which of course you know that is against the law. And the religions, the Abrahamic religions, exhort you wherever you are to respect the laws of that country. And as it is, we are one country. Now you will say it's dangerous for you to support the United Cameroon in the face of what Ambazonia is doing. That's fine. But what I'm asking you is to preach the simple gospel and the simple message of Muslims. You must place very high value on the life of a human being. The kind of barbarism we have seen from the Ambazonians cannot come from a society that knows God, cannot come from a society that recognizes the value of human life. If it does, as it happens now in our own country, it is a reflection of the emptiness of the religion that we have. Of course, many of you have met the religion useless to our people. The Fulani is against the Hausa. You go into the Protestant churches, the Bamileke is against the Bassa. You go to the Catholic churches, one bishop in Yaoundé is saying rubbish, whereas the other bishop in Douala is speaking sense. You come to the Presbyterians, the same thing. The one is Grafi, the other one is Sawa, and all of this is happening where there should be a sense of immediate recognition of the value of human life, immediate recognition of the universality of the human being. It is therefore up to you, the pastors, the priests, the imams, to preach the gospel of peace. You don't have to support Ambazonia, you don't have to support Cameroon. You have to support life. You have to support peace. You have to support the fact that it is not acceptable in a society to hate somebody and make a video of it. The evil that has befallen our nation is going to take 30 years, 40 years before it leaves us. And this because you choose not to speak at the right time. You choose not to speak out in support of the moral voice, and the moral voice, which is all about preserving life and seeking peace always. Now I come to the last point. The last point is that the way the country is going, it cannot survive. If Biya is in power for 2 years, I can guarantee you that Ambazonia is going to become a reality. Millions of Cameroonians in the Nord-ouest and South-west will die, and they will give you a separation. It's not that it's going to be a separation that will be good. It will be a separation like in Sudan, where the fighters of Choayaba will be fighting with the fighters of Chris Anu or some other group, so Foncha and all the rest. That's the country you will have independence into. These things are predictable. They follow the laws of physics. That's how it behaves. If Mr. Biya is allowed to stay in power for 2 years, I can guarantee you there is going to be separation and a lot of suffering. We must prevent this from happening. And the way to prevent it is to join with our Francophone brothers and come out in our numbers, not once, not twice, but come out until we are able to bring about the forced resignation of Mr. Paul Biya, and there will be fresh elections for the country to find a new leader. I am particularly addressing the Anglophones who are in the eastern part of Cameroon. Anglophones in East Cameroon, we have classified you in 4 groups. Some of you support Ambazonian. Shame on you. You're living peacefully and supporting people to suffer somewhere. Some of you support Biya. Shame on you. You do not see how he's destroying the country. You say, if my family is fine, my relatives have a job, they corrupted their way into the system, I am happy. Shame on you. There are many Anglophones who are in East Cameroon and they worship everything that comes from Paul Biya. Many Anglophones who are in East Cameroon, who support Ambazonian. They read everything, they share everything that comes from the Ambazonian. Shame on you. There are some who do not really care. They say, well, I'm already here. I've left that place. These people are useless. I don't even follow what is going on there. There are Anglophones like that. And there are some Anglophones who follow our philosophy here. We are one country. We recognize that Biya has destroyed this country. We recognize that the Ambazonians are not our friends either. And therefore, we must find a way to solve this situation. We must find a way to get rid of these people who are destroying our nation. I am coming to you, Anglophones in East Cameroon. There should only be one group of Anglophones in East of Cameroon. That group should be a group of Cameroonians who recognize that we are one nation. That's number one. Should be people who recognize that Mr. Biya is a big problem. It's a disaster for our country. And if he is not removed from power, we will suffer much worse than any country in Africa so far. And you must recognize that Biya is not just going to wake up one day and say, I don't want to be president again, I resign. He will only resign in response to very massive protest. Therefore, I'm coming to you, Anglophones in East Cameroon. I'm pleading with you. You must be mobilized, more mobilized than the Francophones, because you know the suffering in the Nord-ouest and sud-ouest directly caused by this disastrous president. I am coming to you and asking you who are in East Cameroon. Most of you come out from the Northwest and Southwest and you understand the culture of the people is that we hold the government accountable. And it is time for us to hold the government accountable for the billions and billions of francs CFA which have been stolen from the people in the name of organizing African Cup of Nations. We now know that it will not be organized in this 2019. And we also know that even in 2021, it will not be organized. Your grandchildren owe money to the Chinese. They will have to pay back for facilities that were not delivered. That is an irresponsible government that you must stand up against. So, I'm calling on you in East Cameroon, all Anglophones in East Cameroon, stay mobilized, stay mobilized. You will get the information when the time will come, but I'm asking you to stay mobilized, to come out in your numbers. The only thing you can do to help the situation in Northwest and Southwest is to help the revolution, help the peaceful revolution, the peaceful transition. That transition is to force the government of Mr. Paul Biya to resign. Right now, the country is run by Biya. It's run by her people, a group of thieves in government places. The security is run by a foreigner. And I'm not sure that Mr. Biya knows what the date of today is. He only knows that he is president. And the people have kept him there because he has no power. And he does not remember what happened yesterday. That's the country we are in. We can make a difference. We must tell Mr. Ngongo at the presidency. In the constitution, there is no way for you to become a president of Cameroon. There is no path to that. The CPDM must become a party in the opposition before it comes back to power. There is no way the next president in Cameroon will come from the CPDM. And therefore, these thieves, they must recognize that we are going to come after them. After this revolution. Mr. Biya has immunity, but Chantal Biya does not have immunity. We are not going to grant that immunity just easily. And the other thieves at the presidency, that immunity can be taken away from you if your crimes, which are many, can be demonstrated. And therefore, we have to take our country back from the government of Paul Biya. From the Ambazonians. We have to tell the Americans, you will pay a price in your relation with Cameroon if you continue to protect those people who tell our boys to take up arms, to kill each other, to go and fight Chua Yaba's camp, to go and fight this other camp. This is how bad we have become. And the way out is a moral voice, and that moral voice is that the value of human life is precious, and that the citizen must stand up and hold the government accountable. And at this point, holding the government accountable is to tell Mr. Biya to retire to Mvomeka, and then we will have our country, which will remain reunited. God bless Cameroon. Thank you.